Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. After a while again, I have with me General Prabdeep Singh, who will tell us, यार ये यूक्रेन नाउ आई एम गोना स्विच टू खरी हिंदी, ओके? क्योंकि ये जो बोलने वाला हूँ वो इंग्लिश में नहीं समझा सकते। गेम आउट हो गया क्या इसका? क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं से इधर से पसीने छूट रहे हैं, उधर से पसीने छूट रहे हैं। ही स्वेटिंग ऑल थ्रू द प्लेस। जब से जो बाइडेन का विकेट ढीला हुआ है, जेलेंस्की probably is now wondering where do I hide. What's happening? Let's find out. Namaskar, sir. Thank you so much for coming in.
Namaskar. It's a pleasure to be back again. Ukraine is always interesting and comes up with surprises. रोजाना कुछ ना कुछ नया आते रहता है. There is always a twist, and that और जो ये twist होता है ये it is the twist in geopolitics, which is the fulcrum of which is Ukraine. क्या हो रहा है यूक्रेन में? Russia is, is pushing hard. It is gaining territory day by day. There are times there, yesterday they gained 2 villages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is that speed which and the momentum which is there all across the front is something which we need to believe. So what is happening in turn is the Ukrainians are in a panic mode as far as the frontline operations are concerned. While the soldiers, jaise bhi hote hain, soldiers are always brave. They put up a very brave front with whatever they have. They are fighting with whatever they have. Zelensky keeps on making promises that, the Americans are going to provide weapons. He is out with a begging bowl. He's the biggest salesman of his country, trying to attract equipment, air defense, RT ammunition. Well, लड़ाई में जितना मांगो उतना कम है, जितना हो उतना कम है.
Absolutely.
But the fact of the matter is कि आपको how you utilize that, whatever you get, is which is more important. So today, we know that Ukraine has been totally and absolutely dependent on the United States. And in the United States, Zelensky's best friend was President Joe Biden. And it was Joe Biden who was and had been pushing for maximum aid to be provided to Ukraine. So Ukraine was confident. The promises of Patriot missiles, the F-16s तो मुझे अभी नजर आए नहीं, दिखाई नहीं दे रहे दूर दूर तक. Netherlands is supposed to provide, so is I think Poland, but I don't get to see them. I have not yet seen any more Patriots missile system, air defense missile systems being deployed. 5 promise हुए थे last NATO summit में, वो 5 नजर नहीं आ रहे. नजर क्यों नहीं आ रहे is also a question, because आप मिसाइल सिस्टम दे दो मगर उसके लिए मिसाइल्स चाहिए, and these missiles are in short supply because the production line, they say, is being increased. They are going to increase the production, मगर कब तक? 2027. Yes sir. So the increase in production can only materialize by 2027. मतलब 3 साल बाद. अब इस बीच क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा is what we got to be seeing. So there is a greater amount of reliability of the Ukrainians on drones, which they have mastered, right? They are looking at producing and employing about 1 million drones per year. This year's capacity is going to be 1 million drones. Next year, they're looking at upgrading it to 2 million. Fine. You've got these small drones. You've got drones. You are developing drones, deep strike drones up to 1,000 kilometers. That is the only weapon which Ukraine today possesses. It does not possess the air defense. It does not possess the air force. It does not possess the artillery. However, the drone army is quite strong. So that is where it rests. They have also mastered this, unmanned sea vessels. And we know in Crimea, Russia has been forced to relocate its fleet, and
Yep.
rightly so. Rightly so, because they don't want to lose any more vessels. So they have to be protective. उन्होंने अपनी fleet जो है, they have put into safe harbors, safe ports, and there is, Ukraine is taking that as a victory. आप वो कर लो, fine. Can you take Crimea back by doing this? You can make life a little, miserable for the Russians who are deployed there. But can you take Crimea back by just unmanned, vessels, as also by the drones? You can't, because you need physically, you have to capture it. So Crimea कहीं जाता हुआ या यूक्रेन के पास वापस आता हुआ कहीं दूर दूर तक दिखाई नहीं देता, and I think it's just a dream which will continue to manifest for times immemorial. Now, Russia is very confidently moving on with its operations. It is hitting hard on all the cities. It is using their glide bombs to the fullest. They have now started increasing glide bombs. They've increased the payload to about 3 tons. And a lot of destruction is taking place. There is a lot of hue and cry because civilian casualties, war, they are taking place. And there is a hue and cry on that score. So this is the war situation. Now coming on to the geopolitical situation. So you had friend, as we mentioned earlier, President Biden was the best friend of friend Zelensky. And suddenly the world has discovered, and President Biden himself has discovered, that he is not fit enough to kind of stand as the representative of his party to be the presidential candidate. So what has happened in turn? The whole world has come to know that President Joe Biden is incapable. He's, as of today, is incapable. And then, of course, President Trump got the sudden mileage because of providence. Some say it is divine intervention. They want America to progress, and they want America to be strong again. So there was divine intervention in that he moved his head and only his ear got punctured. Right. So this divine intervention, whosoever is behind, there are many stories to it. We leave that aside, but fact remains that President Trump has proven himself. The way he got up and that fist pump, that showed qualities of a true leader in a situation like this. So the Americans are kind of swayed or confident, getting a little more confident about President Trump. Now, what happens to Zelensky in the bargain? When he knows that Joe Biden is incapable of the presidency and Donald Trump is coming, he has panicked. And if I have to believe what the social media says, he made 52 missed calls to President Joe Biden when he declared that he was stepping down. 52 missed calls. How true? I can't say. It's a part of the social media. And
Believable.
that is the level of panic which friend President Zelensky has put himself into. When I say himself into, because total reliability was there in the United States. There is also a possibility when Kamala Harris has been declared, has been announced as the presidential candidate of the party. Interestingly, well, suddenly she gained momentum and gathered a lot of money, and she has also come into the limelight. So, and some say that she will give quite a fight to President Trump as far as the elections are concerned. Now, what happens in the meanwhile? Let's look at the short term and the long term. In the short term, we do understand that there is a delay and the delay will continue, right? In the long term, if President Trump, he has already announced and made it very, very clear that even before he assumes office as president-elect, he will put an end to this war.
Correct.
Correct. Right? He has had a conversation with Zelensky.
Mm.
And he's reiterated the same point, and he said, like, look, we got to be, peace is the way out. Now, we leave Trump and Zelensky aside, and let's go to something interesting. Another nation called China. Even before China, let's talk about what the role the Hungarian, President Orban, Viktor Orban, he has played. I mean, about 2 weeks back, the moment he assumed the so-called rotating presidency of the EU Secretariat, he went to Ukraine, then he went to Russia, then he went to China. Now, all that has not, and what he was trying to say is that it is time for peace. Everybody knows that he is favorable to the Russian, formula for peace. That is all the 4 territories which are claimed by Russia to be part of Russia. And obviously, when he went to Russia and then to China, this was not welcome by the EU nor by the NATO countries. After effect that the pipelines, oil pipelines to Hungary and to Slovakia, that Druzhba, that oil gas pipeline, that has been shut by the Ukrainians, causing a lot of difficulty to the Slovakians as also to the Hungarians. I mean, 70% of the oil and gas which is coming was through this pipeline to Hungary from Russia. So that has been stopped. So this is the pressure tactics being played. Now let's get on to China. China ने इसमें वो क्या बोलते हैं, what is that phrase, बहती गंगा में हाथ धोना. Now, China क्या कर रहा है कि उसने समझ लिया कि America today is not in a position to influence world politics because their leadership is in disarray. Let's get it right. I mean, उसका फायदा कौन उठा सकता है? खाली चाइना उठा सकता है, and other nations, perhaps even like India, we would like to make use of this kind of a disarray, and only powerful nations which are somewhere on the top economically. So and China has come into play. China, interestingly, got all the they talked about Middle East first, and they got the Fatah and the Hamas together and all the Palestinian 13 groups together in China, and try to and Wang Yi is the leader of the entire thing, and they are trying to get the Palestinians together as a one single state. उसका इफेक्ट क्या होगा वो पता नहीं, बट उन्होंने उनको एक बारी एक टेबल पे बैठा लिया है. Now this has been is an after effect of what they were able to do, the trilateral meet between Iran, UAE, and Iranian Saudis and the Chinese, when they sat down together, and there was a kind of a rapprochement which took place. So they think that they are the biggest. What is that phrase? They say that Camp David seems to have shifted to China. The media also comes up with something interesting, and they say, is China the next Camp David? So China is now kind of feeling good. Yeah, we are able to do something in this world. हम peace लेके आएंगे. उसका असर क्या है? Now, how the psyche of the Ukrainians are in real trouble. They don't know which side to look. So, friend Kuleba, the foreign minister of Ukraine, heads to China,
भागता हुआ.
bhagta hua. And he goes and meets Wang Yi and he says, look, I'm ready for negotiations. And the Chinese turned around and say, look, the time at the moment is not very ripe for such, for such negotiations, because China knows the Russian mind.
But China is so stupid, sir. I mean, खुले में आके तुम्हारे साथ में बैठ रहा है. He could have taken this opportunity to make a big six, but no, his time is not right. That means the Russians are also turning the screw.
Obviously, because the
Um,
Russians, you see, the Chinese also understand that they can do nothing about it. If they were able to influence Russia on this particular score, they would have done it long time back.
mm,
They know they can't. They can't. There are not enough screws which they can turn around on Russia, because of other various other factors. If they have to
mm.
be in the Arctic region and this that, they need Russia.
They have to be
If the
subservient.
They have to be subservient. If the northern Arctic route has to be open because of trade and things like that, then they have to kind of have Russia, and Russia is also using that card. So if you look at it, it's not an easy this thing. So the Chinese came about. Effect of it, nothing. Kuleba gets nothing. He goes back. The time is not ripe. Now let us see as to. I mean, there is a turnaround in the Ukrainians' thinking. They started talking peace. They started talking negotiations. They started talking end of the war, because they're badly, badly hit.
Yep.
And they know that if they do not start making noises now like this, they're going to be in deep trouble if Trump comes. Now, if I have to read President X, the future president, if President Trump comes into power, and if I have to read his mind, he's a businessman.
Hmm.
His mind is a transactional mind. What is he looking at? He's going to look. If you want assistance from the United States to improve the infrastructure, reconstruct Ukraine, you have to put an end to the war. Right? You put an end to the war, we will come and help you develop. All the money that you want, we will do it. Second, if till such time conditions are right, do not talk of NATO and do not talk of EU memberships. Second condition. Third, he'll say that, look, what we are going to do is we are going to develop, we are going to provide you weapons, we are going to provide you training, we are going to make sure that you are fully equipped to fight
Hmm.
Russia tomorrow if Russia comes, starts again. So these are the few conditions which he's going to put forth. He's going to bring about a ceasefire. He's going to appease the Russians and say, Russians, okay, whatever your claims, you take your claims. And he's going to blackmail the Ukrainians on these scores. Now, what happens in the bargain? The military industrial complex continues to flourish, because he will keep equipping the Ukrainians. He will keep equipping the NATO countries. So the defense industrial complex is going to keep, the jobs are going to remain. Second, infrastructure development, again, the jobs are going to remain. The money is going to, after all, it gets recycled. It's a money laundering scheme, right?
Correct.
So it's going to get recycled back to the United States. So the US economy grows. People are happy. There are no deaths taking place. And there is peace. And he can claim that I have brought about peace. ये होने वाला है अगर प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप आ गया तो. अगर कमला हैरिस आ गई, as it is, they say, behind Joe Biden, everything what has been run, the country has been run by Kamala Harris, because Biden doesn't know whether he's talking to Putin or to Zelensky. You know what happened the other day? When he was in that talk, he referred to Zelensky as President Putin. So he doesn't know what he's doing in any case. So they say that it is Kamala Harris, which is behind the scene ex officio president. and she's running the country, and all this which is taking place is at her behest. Not that she also knows what she's talking, but that's what is going to happen. And if she comes into power, Russia is going to continue have the last laugh and just continue with gaining territory slowly and slowly and
Yep.
continue with the war.
Yep.
And the aim of defeating or bringing Russia down on its knees, collapsing, the world has seen and it's not happening. Russia has proven itself to be a little too strong for all that. That's my take on the current situation. Yeah,
Sir, one major question.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, Americans की तो हालत खराब है. There's no question. And Trump is of course threatening to kind of just end all this stuff. See, Russia, उसके बाद we know Trump का जो अभी whatever structure is coming out is all anti-China. He's mentioned China virus 3 times during his campaign right now. So he's anti-China because 90% of I think his belief is कि साहब चाइना वायरस निकाला तो मैं रीइलेक्ट नहीं हुआ, मेरे को कोविड में धुल गया मैं.
Hmm.
ठीक है, तो that's something that is a big question in him. But what do you think is going to be the game with Russia, sir? Will they stop their unhealthy obsession because CIA का तो काम खत्म हो जाएगा if Russia goes off?
You see, रशिया को हम लोग रशिया का obsession. We know that Ukraine war was pushed, right?
Hmm.
And had friend Boris Johnson not played the dirty trick, this war wouldn't have taken place, right? And unfortunately or fortunately, whatever is the narrative the West is painting that the Russians will not stop at this and they will want to go back to the previous USSR borders. Well, that's not happening, right? Putin is also not going to last so long. I mean, let's factor in age.
He's 72, sir. 73.
72. Yeah. So maybe give him another 10 years because he's a apparently healthy guy, despite all the news which keeps coming in that he's not, you know, suffering and things like that. At times that narrative also comes. But what I'm trying to say is that will he do it? Will he be around to achieve that or the old USSR border status? Well, that's not happening. He's also, after all, they also read the situation and they know where they stand. And the whole thing is NATO moving eastwards, and they're putting an end to it. Then give me a buffer state in between, and you do what you want. I'll do what I want. In fact, I would like to be a part of NATO. He admitted that earlier, isn't it? So I don't buy that argument which is being put up by a lot of people that he's going to be uh, wanting to gobble more territory, more countries. He's going to strike more countries. Well, he also believes there are ethics in whatever geopolitics. Whether he's now by making this statement, there's going to be a lot of hue and cry. Is Putin being ethical? Well, was the West being ethical all the while? I would like to put that question also. I mean, why were they moving eastwards? So I kind of don't think that the Russians are going to expand westwards beyond at the moment at the stated aims until unless they get fingered more in the future in the coming years, and the the person who comes to power thereafter is even more stronger, and America gets weaker, if I may just
Hmm.
put it that.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah.
So, but the main, how do you think Europe is going to react to all this? Because Europe, सबसे ज्यादा तो जो डैमेज हुआ है, यूक्रेन डैमेज, fair enough, मान लिया, वो तो गया. But the biggest damage that has been taken is by Europe. And today, I mean, what you look at what's happened in France. since the Olympics started, the football match didn't happen. One Australian athlete got raped, unfortunately. Australian or somewhere, one athlete got raped. Yesterday, one Australian team were going in the gadi. One chap got out to get some money out or something like that. They came, attacked, bloody पिटाई शिटाई मार मूर के उनको फेंक दिया वहां पर, एथलीट्स को. अमेरिका की हालत देखो सर, वो हमास, आई मीन दे डेसिक्रेटेड द लिबर्टी बेल.
Just imagine. I mean, they had the cheek to do that, and you let
दे
them do it.
दे टुक आउट द अमेरिकन फ्लैग एंड बर्नट इट इन फ्रंट ऑफ द कैपिटल सर. हमारे देश में कुछ हो जाए सर, डिबेट्स विल बी बर्निंग भैंसियां, कि लोग एक दूसरे का गला घोटने को तैयार हो जाएंगे. दैट वेज आई फेल्ट सो हैप्पी, आवर डेमोक्रेसी एंड आवर नेशनलिज्म इज अलाइव. ये तो सर अपने देश का झंडा तुम जला रहे हो वहां पर.
You see,
एंड
that
देयर
is
इज
what
जस्ट सिंपल क्रिटिसिज्म. ये क्या होने वाला है इन कंट्रीज का.
ये countries, देखो, whatever is happening in France and elsewhere, they are in for deep trouble. Europe, if there was this report in 2004, I think it was on the demographic changes in it. It's a big volume. I mean, it's a huge report which talked about global graphic changes. If you study that, it had predicted at that particular time, about 20 years back, I read it, and it was talking about the domination of the Islamists, the radical Islamists, and the shift which is taking place. Now, what I find intriguing here is, all this while, in the United States, if a cop came in his car and he bloody with his lights blinking, you were kind of shit scared, right? If 4 or 5 cops came and they were, I mean, you see in the movies, and I've seen it there. I mean, people were scared of them. Today, the cops are getting a beating in Europe. People are attacking the cops. They couldn't care a damn about the uniform, and they don't have that. So it's a kind of a anarchical situation which is going to arise if this is not stemmed right now. Things are still in a stage where it can be controlled, but if not controlled, they're going to be in deep trouble. So economically, the Ukraine war has put them in deep shit. Over that, the radical Islamism, which is spreading, that is going to be trouble. The Palestinian cause, we see what is happening in the universities, whether in Europe or whether in the United States. I mean, these are alarming situations. And how are they going to stem it? They do not. They'll have to. I mean, the Americans will have to deploy national guards.
वो भी सर कौन, वो भी आपने देख लिया क्या सीक्रेट सर्विस. You look at that woman who came out, uski director, she says, no, my guys cannot be positioned on a freaking slope roof. Why? It's a slope.
No.
Excuse me?
No. And I was watching an interview in that again. I think to the one of the those Congress this thing. They said that the standards have been lowered over a period of time, whether it is in the FBI. The intake standards have been lowered to increase the number of people. So I think they need to do a little revamp and carry out a internal security study, whether it is in Europe or whether it is in the United States. They really need to do it because things are getting out of control. Economically down, militarily, your ammunition, all the ammunition you had, you've sent it to Ukraine. Your industrial complex is still grappling. You have to give your 2% to NATO and expenditure, all that. Things are not very rosy for Europe nor for the United States. And China is showing eyes whether in the South China Sea. It's getting more and more aggressive. We've seen what they've done to the Vietnamese or Filipino vessels.
नहीं वहां पे भी बैठ गए सर. चाइनीज सैट डाउन.
Yeah.
खत्म करो इसको यार.
So
what the hell is happening here?
So you look at all this. There is a great amount of shift in the dominance the of the West, and that is troublesome.
So to this, I want to add, it's, you know, what policy decisions will you take? Because, let me say this very clearly, sir. Everybody, everybody's saying, by Trump will come, things will be all right. He'll fix it back. Let me make a prediction here. Trump is their Modi. They all hate him. Okay? There will be street protests. There will be anarchy. Let me say that very clearly. The threat that we are thinking that yahan par hone wala hai, those guys are planning all that stuff. America is going to go through one of the toughest times of its life. ये क्या करेंगे sir? Because, and I wonder what Zelensky and people like that have come out and said. You had a so-called vice president who refused to go to a visiting prime minister's address. Forget Netanyahu or whoever it is. It's a visiting prime minister on a state visit. Do you know what they did to his dining room? So there was a small dinner that was organized for this guy, sir. These guys broke in to that room. They broke in and they threw maggots on the table.
Just imagine.
They pointed a Nazi skull and crossbones on his hotel window. The guy had to move in the middle of the night. He couldn't sleep.
So if this is the situation, then आगे देखो क्या होने वाला है.
I am not.
Weapons, we talk of weapons. Weapons are available right off the shelf. You have ammunition vending machines. I mean, amazing. Ammunition vending machines.
It's crazy.
Man. And then you say you have a 20-year-old who tries to take on a presidential candidate. So there is trouble brewing up. Yeah.
My last question before we get into audience questions is about, this. Let's look at the geopolitical, thoda sa global sort of a structure. Sir. Let's say this war comes to this thing, and uske andar I want you to kind of try and predict, although nothing is known, but there is rumors that Modi Saab is going to get involved in this. I believe he's going to Ukraine and all that stuff. And wo chal raha hai. He went to Austria. There's been a lot of conversation back ending mein. Our friend Mr. Jaishankar has spoken to Kuleva 2-3 times. Putin and this guy has been in, Modi Saab has been in touch. Modi has also gone to G7. There is a pattern emerging there. How do you think this thing can realistically shut off, sir? Because realistically, how do you think this war can be brought to an end? Because रुक तो जाएगा, ceasefire हो जाएगा, but it'll start maybe 10 days later. So that becomes a problem. I mean, you've been fighting for 3 years, 2 years. It's kind of a habit also.
You see, it's this war is complicated, undoubtedly. And where does India figure in is something that we must see. We are fortunate to be Indians, and we are fortunate to have a very, very strong leadership, which is kind of respected all over the world. Today, the ratings of our Prime Minister, I mean, he's the strongest as far as the best ratings of a leader are with our Prime Minister. So this is something which we are all fortunate about, and must be proud of that. And of course, we have an external affairs minister who's amazing and who's superb as far as diplomacy is concerned, who understands world politics and geopolitics better than anybody else in the world. Where do we fit in? We are respected by Russia. We are friends with Russia. We are respected in the United States. May not be respected in the United States, but we are definitely with the government of the United States. We are in. There's a large amount of cooperation which is existing between the United States, the two largest democracies, and India. As far as Ukraine is concerned, we've never had good relations with Ukraine, other than the fact that we bought some spares when they were not available from the Russians, or they were
And we
available
bought
at
that
a
engine factory, engine
yeah,
factory, and everything we bought it over.
yeah. And the fact is that Ukrainians have always been pro Pakistanis, uh, and they supplied a lot of equipment to the Pakistanis. Notwithstanding that, China is not a favored nation and not a trustworthy nation, and then the world realizes that. Whereas India holds a lot of trust as far as rest of the world is concerned. So, are we going to be playing a major part? Uh, I guess so. And how will it unfold? I mean, if we see a visit of our Prime Minister to Ukraine, it will be definitely with certain conditions. And those conditions are definitely not going to be the conditions which are, uh, which the Ukrainians want. Because the Ukrainians are looking at, respect of sovereignty and things like that. Now, this is a tightrope that we got to walk. You know, the moment India gets into all this, we got to be walking a very tightrope. And if you understand why, and we would rather,
Not get involved.
not get into it.
Hmm.
So what we will be looking at is putting an end, a cessation of hostilities, and initiating talks between the two countries,
Become a
bilateral talks.
center point and bilateral. Huh? We'll
Uh,
facilitate the talks. Correct.
we will
Hmm.
facilitate bilateral talks between the Ukrainians and the Russians,
Makes sense.
and that is all that we can do diplomatically because of certain conditions which and certain values on certain issues back home which we
Hmm.
have, and because we have to maintain a certain stance. So we will be promoting bilateral talks between Russians and the Ukrainians, facilitate that, and maybe appoint monitors or oblique stroke observers to the talks. Not influence the talks, but appoint observers. And then wait for an outcome, not direct an outcome, but wait for an outcome of the bilateral talks between Russia and Ukraine. Thereafter, whatever is you know agreed upon by these two countries is that then can be monitored, that then can be ensured that it is implemented through a peacekeeping force or a European force or whichever force, like the I4 or whatever it is,
Hmm.
or a multinational force which is there,
Multinational. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
force under the UN, outside the UN, and that can be there to monitor a particular neutral stretch, is what I look at it. But it will be a bilateral kind of an arrangement that we will propagate. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, it's so funny, sir. These guys have been, American newspapers were so jumping for joy, some of them, when the budget came across and the Nifty kind of went down 700 points and came back up and kind of closed 50-60 flat. Uh, Today, Nasdaq has dumped 500 points and it has gone down $1 trillion. 1 trillion. Okay. So, the point is these guys are hoping for worse on other people and the same damn thing is happening to them.
Yeah, it is very. I mean, the Americans actually, the polity. Their approach towards everything is they're making a mockery of themselves, and unfortunately, uh, one it is not expected from a nation like a superpower, so-called superpower of the world, to be in such kind of a situation, and it's quite sad.
Yeah.
And the after effects of it are going to be quite nasty over a period of time.
Yeah. What they're not realizing, the after effect is not going to be so fast.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really, it's going to be really, really long term, and it's not going to be like
Correct.
abhi khatam ho gaya and all that stuff. वो नहीं होगा. That's correct, sir. Guys, please like this video. Let's get into some questions. Subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, share this with your friends and families. Ukraine is an important area, यार. मैंने आपको I think एक करीब दो हफ्ते पहले I had given you a small brief on what Modi साहब was doing in Austria, and you'll probably see something coming into fruition अगर भारत इसमें involved होता है. And of course, अमेरिका तो सबको पता ही है, डब्बा गोल है. हमको ही threaten मारते रहते हैं. And the more they threaten us, the more I get happy because then I know that we're doing the right thing. So please like the video and subscribe. And of course, yes, you can contribute using the QR code up there or the PayPal in the link or in the description below, or you can send in super stickers or super chats. Let's take the first question. Sabse pehle, Partha Saab, thank you. With a possible second Trump term and BB US visit, is Ukraine in an end zone to focus on Israel? How will NATO pivot to Asia with Lavrov already in ASEAN? Lavrov, Russians have been part of ASEAN for a long time. I mean, they've been
Yeah.
an observer of ASEAN like
Observer.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, uh, this NATO pivot to Asia kind of it doesn't seem to gel actually. It is just a I think some media guys created this kind of a thing. Uh, we're not going to have NATO pivoting to Asia. I mean, you obviously have a few countries of NATO which are which are showing interest in this area, but a NATO pivot to Asia not happening. And the ASEAN, the BRICS will not let such kind of a situation to arrive. Because if you're looking at BRICS versus NATO, that is also not making a little bit of sense
You know,
overall.
the Asian 4 has come out. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so the NATO pivot, let's leave NATO as North Atlantic. That's my reading of the whole thing. I've also heard and read and people talking about that NATO pivoting towards Asia. Let NATO be a North Atlantic Treaty Organization and just be responsible for that. And let's not mix up the whole thing, because what is happening in the Indo-Pacific is, and in the Indian Ocean or the South China Sea and all that is a little different. As far as
Absolutely.
yes, an end to Ukraine to focus on Israel. Well, Ukraine has to be brought to an end, not because of Israel. I would not subscribe to this. What I would subscribe to is that Israel, Middle East, getting a peaceful Middle East is one bit. To have an end to a war in Ukraine is another aspect. The two of them, how do they get linked? They get linked because the backers are the same. That's the only thing.
Gosh sakes.
Because who are propagating, whether it's the backing to the Israelis is obviously the Americans, the backing to the Ukrainians is obviously the Americans in the West. So this, yeah, if they end Ukraine, they can focus more on Israel. But geopolitically, no. Economically, yes, it will make sense. That's about it.
Interesting.
Militarily, no. Militarily, yeah, they have to supply weapons, supplied equipment that now has got divided between Ukraine and Israel. And Israel is a more preferred partner than Ukraine. There's no doubt about it.
Correct, sir. Mitesh Patel ji, thank you so much. You say vote wisely. It's your biggest security policy. Absolutely.
Yep.
Please vote. People just didn't vote last time. Vijay ji, thank you so much. What's your view on today US warning to IBA, the Indian Banking Association? If you deal with Russia, we will sanction you. They've been saying that for 2 years now. Let
They
them.
can do that. They what has happened, I'll just give you an example. The Japanese lay down sanctions on the Russian companies.
Hmm.
You know what has happened now? Today, the Russians have in the no visit list, they have banned the visit of 13 top countries of Japan, 13 top companies of Japan, their representatives, they cannot visit Russia. That includes Toyota head, right?
Banned by the UN.
So, yeah, they are like their persona non grata as far as they are concerned. So, everything is reciprocal. You can threaten Indian Banking Association, you can threaten Indian banks, you can do what you want, but to is the Newton's third law, you know. So there will be a reaction, and the Indian reaction will be much stronger. And India will speak, if I may just put it bluntly, it has backing of, you just look at BRICS,
Arey,
Brazil,
sir,
Russia, India.
you, you tell me this. Modi Saab just went to bloody Russia. These guys have still not gotten over it. In case
They are
Senate
not
hearings,
got over it.
they have their. I don't know what's happened to them. I've never seen Americans in. I've never seen them
So
so fluttery.
so you try and finger India, you get fingered in turn, and you get fingered badly in turn. And the Indian population and diaspora in the United States, trust me, India can turn the tide either way. So we know how much of a fan following our Prime Minister has in the United States.
Abhinav is
Don't you-
saying the same thing. Abhinavji, thank you so much. He says, should India enhance its reciprocity versus the West? For example, if a diplomat is expelled from a country, then the other reciprocates. Should India apply this in other areas? USA is proposing $101 million shagan to Pakistan for, let me just clarify, for strengthening democracy in Pakistan and fighting
Yes.
terrorism. Strengthening democracy, huh? Pakistan needs some strengthening of democracy now. So interesting. Who are they making a fool out of? No one cares. But should PM should propose another visit to Russia? मर जाएंगे
Oh,
सर.
yeah. I mean, you see what you got to see is what the Americans do is if you're not towing their line, they come out to something like this.
Yeah, stupid.
$101 million in aid uh, is peanuts as far as aid is concerned when you're looking at in the overall quantum is concerned. But it means a lot to to the Pakis because we know what the state is. I mean, in any case, out of this, 50% is going to be eaten up, and there's total corruption over there. So this aid is peanuts. It's a good gesture, if I may just put it. We know how much the Chinese have given and how much the Saudis have been giving them. So 101 million is peanuts actually. So let them give. They want to strengthen democracy. They can do that. They're just showing their true colors and their of the fact that they have, eh, you know, how much you may try to finger India. India is not going to get fingered.
So stupid. I mean, if you have,
It
you
is
want to.
childish. And Pakis will be having a, sorry to say, but they'll be thrilled and very happy with the fact that they got some aid from America. Oh my God.
So Pakis are already in the cupboard. They've just thrown the first pile of dust on them. Nothing else.
That's what all.
This is a funny comment. Abhishek Saab says Putin should just promise Ukrainians 8,500 books and they'll take the offer and withdraw.
They're also hungry for money. Well,
Yeah,
Zelensky will be given a yacht and an island by the Russians and he'll be happy.
yeah. Another one actually. Uh, Zay Saab कहते हैं, Russia used 3-ton glide bomb on Sukhoi 34 on Ukraine. What would be the effect? And Klonsky in his is intense that if Trump comes, his funding would be stopped. So started buttering Trump's health. This is interesting actually. He just said, "How was you? How was your health?" and this and that.
Yeah,
But sir, your assessment of this 3-ton glide bomb. I mean, this is I saw that bomb. It's pretty.
huge. Mother of all bombs, father of all bombs. MOAB
And
was what what the
We are also
Americans are.
making one, right? We are also making one. The other day I was reading India is building a some 4-ton bomb or something like that. 3 4 ton bomb.
That's okay. If others have got it, we should also have it. Yeah,
But this will take out a block, right? A city block.
yeah. It wipes out a block. I mean, a three ton glide bomb is not a joke. And these, the beauty is, I was just studying this. The technology part of it. The Russians have been able to master this glide bomb technology. These are dumb bombs which today are gliding onto their designated targets. So their probability of error is very less, and the destruction caused is huge. So a 3,000 ton will wipe out an entire block, and
Because जून
the
में वो
way
आया
that
था ना न्यूज. There was a thing called Sebex, Sebex, Sebex
Hmm.
2. The DRDO had taken out. It just clicked me. That is some 2 times as powerful as TNT. So you drop a 1 ton, it's
that's the explosive
yeah,
you're talking.
it's a
Yeah,
2 ton as it is. So Sumanji says, Jansa, your thoughts on India successfully testing our indigenous ballistic missile system? A lesson from Ukraine, sir, or a lesson
yeah.
from
Today,
Israel?
no. This is we've been at it for a very long time, and it's not the. I mean, it's come to limelight now, but as far as India is concerned, India has also been in this particular project for a considerably long time. This is maybe 10 odd years when the anti-ballistic missile systems, came about in the world. So India too had been working on it. And if you recollect 10, 11, 12 years back, we did carry out a test and there was a big hoo about it in the world. So I guess this is now a necessity and it has to
True.
be indigenous. Production has to be in bulk. Our population is huge. We are a densely populated country, and the requirement of such a, a system, a very effective system, exists, and it is required, and it will be produced.
True. Absolutely. R- Ragnarok G says, how much of a role will Poland play during and after the partition of Ukraine?
Good question. And I think Poland is going to be the biggest beneficiary of this entire game, and Poland will be kind of supported. It's one country which has been supported maximum by the United States as far as training, equipment, money, wherewithal is concerned. So, because the narrative will be built around that. If Ukraine doesn't get partitioned, or if Russia is allowed, it will be Poland is next. So, Poland, for its own narrated security, will be interested and will be the biggest player as far as uh, you know during and after the partition of Ukraine happens. Will be the biggest player, and it may also be vying for territory. We've always talked about
Yeah.
trifurcation, and
Hmm.
it may be vying for territory. And don't be we should not be surprised that even after, now this is something which this is my prediction, that even after partition takes place, Poland may just walk into Ukraine, take up certain territory, and which in the western Ukraine, take up certain territory and say like, you know old territory, old Polish territory, and we want it as a buffer area, so we do not want the Russians to come in subsequently. So
Yeah.
you'll have Poland,
And
uh,
probably sign a deal with the Russians after that and say, yeah,
and
chal theek hai."
thereafter, yeah. So something like that is going to happen. I'm quite very sure. Yeah.
Srinivas ji, thank you so much. Pranam General Sahab. He says, is weak Russia or strong Russia preferable for China? Will Russia-China chemistry impact the relations with Russia in the future, impact our relations with Russia in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah, a good question once again. Uh, China would prefer a weak Russia, doesn't want a strong Russia. Why? Because tomorrow the Chinese, if they, and I'm again going back to my favorite Arctic region, if tomorrow they have to play a prominent role in the Arctic, why? Because of trade, because they are economic power, and it is Russia has got about 400 odd ports or
Hmm.
naval bases along the in the Arctic Circle on along that route. So obviously, if China has to play ball, they have to do it along with Russia. And if Russia is strong, China has to bend, and China would not like to bend. So I'm just putting it that way. So as far as the Chinese are concerned, they do not want a strong Russia. If they wanted a strong Russia, or if they were totally backing the Russians, they would have backed this in the Ukraine war. They would have backed Russia significantly. And in the present time, we know what they have done. Nothing. They're
Actually,
just talk.
one of the biggest things. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think there was a report the other day that 70% of Russian oil exports is to India today.
Yes. No, they put Russia, as far as oil is concerned, is going to China or Russia, India. That's a different story. But what I'm talking about, uh, that is because it was to the benefit of China, right? Or and to the benefit of India that we took oil from them. So we were looking at national interests. But when you look at national internal interests, if I may just put it, but when you're looking at it in a geopolitical frame, or in a military framework, the Chinese have not come out to help. While the West can keep accusing China of supplying parts, भाई वो parts तो Americans को भी देते हैं, पूरी दुनिया को देते हैं. Somehow or the other, the manufacturing hub remains in China, and it gets circumvented and it lands up there. So there are parts, whether it is to the Russians or whether it is to the Americans, but they're being supplied by the Chinese. So economically, different story. Militarily, no impactful help has been provided by the Chinese to the Russians. So if we think they are great friends, well, I have my doubts. They also have a lot of disputes between them. Territorial issues also exist between the
That's
Russians
pretty
and the
bad.
Chinese.
Pretty bad.
Yes. Now, what is the other part? And add something.
Mhm. One second,
And
sir.
something to do with India.
Yeah, one second, one second. Will the Russia-China chemistry impact our relation in the future?
No, you see, how you got to look at it is India believes in multinationalism, and it looks at Russia as a friend, as a time-tested friend. As far as China is concerned, after all, our trade with the Chinese is increasing day by day. Our imports from, I don't know, have the exact figure offhand, but it has increased significantly in the last
60,
1 year, one odd
$66
year.
billion dollars, sir.
Yes. So if that is the kind of trade that is continuing with China, it's only bound to increase. And the Chinese are also keen. Let's put the border dispute aside. The Chinese are also keen to do trade with us. After all, it's 1.4 billion population versus 1.3 billion population. So it's a mutual, we are mutual beneficiaries as far as trade is concerned.
Sir,
Yeah.
Dineshji, thank you. You say US Treasury warns India's banks about business with Russia. How do you analyze this and how will it impact India? It won't, it's a threat. So, as we
Yeah,
just discussed.
we will discuss this. This is
Yeah. Rutvik thank you so much. Sir, making jet engine for tanks, firearm is not too hard. India does have the brain power and skill set for India. Can India complete it in 2 to 3 years? Tanks is
yes.
done. Tanks is
Tanks is
done.
we are looking at engines. You see,
Jet
engine
engine.
technology. Jet engine technology is something that we just have to master, and I think it's more of the metallurgy that we have an issue with. Uh, it's the same thing as the cryogenic engine. If you recollect, there was a ban on imports, we produced our own cryogenic engine. So
Yeah.
tomorrow, if you're going to be tightening the screws on us, uh, well, we'll sooner or later we'll have a better engine being produced in India.
So 78 was the requirement. You're at 74 right now.
Yeah,
Okay, dry thrust. They're saying we'll meet 78 by this year end.
yeah.
GRTE with Brahmos is already making the afterburner. As a matter of fact, they've started doing testing of that thing. I don't think it's more than about 2 years away.
Yeah, so as far as we are concerned, it's technology today. We do have an edge, and where you put your mind and heart into, you will achieve it. I mean, look at
True,
space. Yeah,
true.
if we
Absolutely.
if we can reach the moon, can't we do this? Yeah, can't we produce engines?
So
Come on.
we produced the first glide kits in India 3 months after the Russians used it.
So
From
so
being
it's
zero in drones to one of the largest manufacturers of drones today in the world.
yeah,
It's a revolution. There's no question.
absolutely.
Abhinavji, once again, thank you. You say, what are your thoughts on our unhealthy obsession with Indian origin leaders? With Kamala, the same drunkenness is happening. Where? I think only in her village, I think, right? Like it or not, this is another breed of identity politics which is rarely discussed but equally harmful. Agreed. Principles trump identity.
You see, this is something which I'm very happy that you raise this issue. Uh, what is America? Who is an American? Is there? He's not an original. He's not an. Is that the originals, Aboriginals? Whether it, I mean, I'm talking about the Indians of the Indians of America. They are the original inhabitants. And what is America? America is made out of people who have come from all over the world,
Yeah.
right? So if you've got an Indian who's an American, why are we getting obsessed with? Trust you me, and if you have trust me, if you have stayed in the United States, your own people, so to say, the Indian origin people are the worst critics of India.
Absolutely. As a matter of
I
fact, she is interchangeable. She becomes black when she needs to.
Yes. So as far as we guys are concerned, we should get out of this fixation. They're
Yeah.
Americans. Period.
Period.
They have no loyalty. They have only loyalty to the green paper.
People were obsessed with Rishi Sunak. Look what he did. Under
Yeah.
his under his term, you had um what the Gurdwara attacks, the Mandir attacks, the attack on the embassy, the blame for that Pandit Khanda Jhanda chap, whatever that chap's name was, who died, then Leicester violence, then two murders, and many other things.
Yeah.
And
So
here is so-called Indian.
we have to Kamala Harris. I mean, she ain't Indian, man. End of
Hmm.
story. Just too bad. Rishi Sunak, British.
Abhinavji once again says, thank you. Does, and if not, India have a dead hand nuclear system? Pakistan has, similar to Russia, dead hand versus the West. Pakistan doesn't, right, sir?
I will not be able to comment on
Ah, okay.
this particular.
Sorry. Let it, Abhinavji, I'll probably say it sometime later. Let's not get sir involved. Partharji, thank you. Do you see unity in BRICS? Asi bhi desi, tusi bhi desi.
You'd be surprised. I mean, it's getting over a period of time. This is something which is emerging as a very, very significant and an important block, which is actually making an effect around the world. So there is unity. I mean, it's just that you have the sea. You know what seas are.
Hmm.
So that sea is what is a trouble factor. Otherwise, the rest of the lot is very much united.
Hmm. 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 Shalinderji says, what if peace got restored by Modi ji with conditions? Bharatiya businessmen get rebuilding contracts? Your views?
Yeah, obviously, if you're getting into this, This is something that we should be looking forward to, and it is just not infrastructure. It is demining. It is, a lot of scrap which is there. Uh,
Metal mining.
I'm saying, yeah, there's a lot of mining industry. You're looking at the grains. Of course, the Americans have bought half BlackRock. They bought 30% of the agriculture land already. But definitely, if you're brokering peace, there's got to be you got to get a pie of the share. And I'm sure we are as strong in negotiating for our own selves. It'll do us good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lajwanti ji says, Adi and Behelji, chaos in Europe was staged 10 years ago with uncontrolled input of migrants. Mother Merkel, as I like to call her, said, add labor force. Question, how can deep state cure this? Use chaos.
You see, the whole thing is again getting murkier by the day. It's all the vote bank politics, and they've been looking at migrants coming in for particularly for votes. We know what is happening in the United States. Votes, votes, votes. And as far as the deep state is concerned, the deep state is already always interested in chaos,
In chaos, you
because
rule.
it is in chaos that they benefit. It is, if their aim is to create chaos, where chaos can be created easily, and that is what they're doing. No,
Indeed, sir.
they tried their level best to do that in India, and obviously it did have an effect. And unfortunately, they've been recognized and they're being dealt with. So you got to be smart. And unfortunately, and I I must say, and I don't have any qualms about it. If you look at the leader profile, let's if you carry out a analysis of the leader profile of the Europeans, what age bracket are they? What experience do they have in politics? Very little, as compared to diehard politicians, whether it
Oh,
is yeah, whether I would say whether it is the Indian politician or whether it is the Russian politician. I mean, look at the maturity. You show me maturity. Is there any maturity in all these people,
no.
right?
Mhm.
So there is a huge amount of maturity.
True, true. Absolutely, sir.
Some of them are in the 30s, the ministers. I mean, a person in 30s, what experience does he have? You may have qualification, but what do you have experience as far as running a nation is concerned, or a ministry is concerned? So there is the deep state is able to manipulate such people,
Hmm.
whereas in countries where you have strong politicians, strong bureaucrats, learned bureaucrats, and it's not easy for them to kind of mess with them.
True. JJG says, what would be the course of events should Miss Harris happens to become the next POTUS?
Yeah, we did discuss this. When Harris becomes the next POTUS, she's going to be as bad as Joe Biden. The war will
First,
continue. Russia will continue to push forth, and Ukraine will continue to let their people die, and Zelensky will continue to make a lot of money.
Ji. Ruthvik thank you. For internal security, it's important to correct history. We have Sanskrit names, peacocks, local, not like the Germans for Stefan, Greek, no relations to Greeks. That's true. We still
Yeah,
have some
that's
semblance of sense
no, no,
left, if I may.
no, no. We are culturally so strong and rich as a nation,
Yeah.
and
Vijayji,
and
so
they
last,
like, yeah. Sorry.
sorry, last three questions, sir.
Yeah.
विजय जी says पाकिस्तान पठानकोट में भी कुछ कर रहा है आतंकवादी पकड़े गए थे सर जी हम तो बोल रहे थे me and Colonel Ajay Raina have said they will use Punjab the chaos in Punjab is ripe
Yeah.
to infiltrate
You
sir
see,
any
this,
opinion
what happens is, uh, if you know the layout of the entire border, the vulnerable spots are the border areas between Punjab and
J&K.
Jammu, J&K, right? You have these nalas and rivers, and these guys are trained to come across. Then they have a lot of smuggling which is going on, drugs, etc. So there's a lot of tunneling which is taking place. So it is these routes which are being used, the tunnels which are being used, or the nalas, which river and areas that is being used. And they know that the fence
Yeah.
all along Jammu and Kashmir is being heavily patrolled. While the same is being done here, I'm not saying that the BSF is not doing a good job, but uh,
There are gaps.
there are gaps, or there are uh, these tunneling activities which take place, and so the route is from
True.
the south.
Batraji says, General sir, what will be the agenda on the table in the BRICS meet when they meet in Russia besides the dollar replacement? I will the BRICS currency be a reality?
Let's see. I mean, you never know. I mean, in India has taken a lead as far as digital currency is concerned. And you just have to name that currency, some name, give it a name, and implement it. It's so simple. If the same modus operandi is to be made common amongst the BRIC nations, and you just have to give it a name, a transaction, and come to a common denominator as far as between countries, it's going to be highly effective.
True.
So other than this, what else can be the agenda? Is, I think, more of it, uh, is they do not discuss individual nations, but they will discuss security of
Yeah.
general peace and security should prevail in the world. They'll talk economics, and they will talk, uh, the routine cultural exchanges, technological advancements, sharing of technology, etc., etc.
So,
Yeah.
and the last one, Gatsya ji, he says, I heard S400 data got leaked. If true, how much of it will is going to hurt us? This is something that the Ukrainians tried to play when Modi was in Russia. Oh, we hacked the S400 and all that.
You see, they can do what they want to do. But if it had happened today, I'm sure even if it happened, it has been put in place. Because
Those are very simple
such,
codes to change. It's not much of a challenge.
yeah, it's these codes are changed. You know, in these things, the codes are changed in seconds. It's not that the encryption codes are not being changed. They're very changed like this. Tuck, 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 tuck. They keep changing, and it's an exceptional. Whatever little knowledge I have, it's very, very secure.
On that note, sir, thank you so much. It's been a good geopolitical discussion. There's a lot which is happening in the world, and we are smack dab right in the middle of it. So it's always fun to actually connect India to a lot of things around and see what comes out of it. And looking forward to seeing you back very soon, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show. Thank you.